Welcome, everybody. I'm Todd Wade. This is the Joe and Todd Show.
I just got this thing on my watch that says emergency forecast. I'm like,
Oh, no.
oh, it's about the national weather. It's like 7 days out or something. Anyway, hey, this is Joe Mathis. We're so excited to be here today. We have an interview via Zoom with one of my favorite people. Kent has just always been one of those amazing professionals in the nonprofit world that I've always looked up to. He's brought us some great clients. I hope we brought him some as well. But I feel like whenever Kent speaks on a subject about fundraising, he's always pretty right on. And I've always liked that he agrees with me. That's mostly the case. But anyway, we're glad you're here, Kent.
I want to read his intro.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Because for people who don't know Kent, I think they need to know who he is, and I'm going to mess it up if I don't just read it. So Kent is the founder of the Institute for Conversational Fundraising. He's also the author of Asking About Asking, Mastering the Art of Conversational Fundraising. He's also the author of The Intentional Board, Why Your Board Doesn't Work and How to Fix It.
That's awesome.
And Kent is a certified fundraising executive, CFRE, for those who don't know that abbreviation. He's a published author, popular presenter, effective consultant, and insightful thought leader. His purpose in life is to equip, inspire, and encourage, which is very well with us. Kent fulfills his purpose by equipping leaders internationally through keynotes, retreats, consulting, writing, and the Signature Asking Academy. Kent is passionate about excellence in fundraising, and most importantly, he's husband of one, father of three, and grandfather of nine. Is that still true, Kent?
It is.
All right.
I love it.
I should have said proud grandfather.
Proud grandfather.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, Ken, I just want to say, again, I hope I've said this before to you, but thank you for all you do in our world, and especially with working with nonprofits. Like I said a while ago, it seems like the advice you a lot of times give, the ways you teach, the ways you lead, the ways you inspire and equip nonprofits to do better and go further, it inspires me. And so I appreciate that. Thank you for leading strong. One thing we just like to ask right off, what's something you've learned in working with nonprofits that you think is important to share with our audience today?
Wow. Well, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to be on the show. And secondly, thanks for letting me preview the questions.
Cheryl. We're going to give Cheryl all the credit for that. She's our podcast producer, and she's really good about that. I'd rather just be spontaneous,
Yeah. Then you get weird questions and awkward pauses.
If we'd been spontaneous, I would have said, well, nice question. Do you have one I can actually answer?
Exactly.
But I've given some thought to that question.
Okay.
And, after, how long have I been in the field? Well, actually my whole career, but the last 20 years with the consulting firm. And, some key things that I think I've learned over the last 2 decades. I'm slow, but I do eventually learn things, okay? But, one of the big things, and I mean, none of these are things that people don't already know, but number one is people are generous. And one of the things I love about the work that I get to do is I say I get to work with the finest people in the world. And here's my definition. It's people who do what they don't have to do. And nobody has to donate, right? It's a voluntary contribution. Nobody has to do that. And here's the other thing. Nobody has to volunteer. And so when we get to work with people who voluntarily make gifts of their time and of their finances, these are God's finest people on God's green earth, and people are generous. And I know we're going to talk about it later when we talk about what you guys do, but anything that brings generous, wonderful people to the forefront and allows them to do what they were born to do, that's one of the things I've learned. People are generous.
Oh, I love that.
So it's nothing new, right? You knew it, but that's one of the things I've learned. Here's another thing I've learned. Passion matters. Nobody does those things we talked about out of boredom. I can't think of anything else to do today, so I'm going to write a check. Right? Or, I can't think of anything to do, so I think I'm going to go down and work at the rescue mission. Right? Mm-hmm. People are passionate, and they love doing things that really stir their own soul. And when our souls are stirred and we act on that, it just brings joy in other people's lives. And then the third thing that I want to share, and this is another of those things that's too obvious to be profound, but that is that that in order to do our best work, we have to be equipped. And so many times what I encounter is people who they are passionate and they're generous and they're given a job to do, and they just don't know how to do it, or they don't know how to do it well. And so providing people with the tools that they need, whether it's tools that are up here or tools that go in their hands or some other form, that's one of the best things that we can do so that the results are worth celebrating.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's really,
Those are some
Kinda gives
really
me
profound
chills.
insights.
Yeah.
I love those a lot.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring. Okay, next question. What's one, since you've already got these great answers prepared, I feel like I got to ask you all the questions.
Stay on screen.
What's one of the biggest challenges facing nonprofit organizations today?
That you see.
Well, it was interesting when I looked at that question, one word leaped out to me, that's today. And, there's something unique about today. In fact, later this week, we're going to look back 20 years and think about, in a lot of ways, how the world changed on September 11th,
Right.
2000.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, about a year and a half, a lot of things about the world changed. But there's a common theme as I think about this question that you've asked, and that is the challenges. And frankly, I think we could take out the word nonprofits and it'd be the same question, same answer. I think we could take out organizations. What's one of the biggest challenges we face? So without making any distinction, I'm going to say one of the biggest ones is leadership.
Oh,
yeah.
And I mean, what caused our country to pull together 20 years ago? It's when, we're all standing around wringing our hands. We don't know what to do. I mean, you know where you were. I know where I was.
Yep.
I remember I got a call from my daughter who was in college. She said, "Dad, what should I do?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm kind of emotional. That was a scary time for her. It was a scary time for me as a dad, but it was scary times in different ways for all of us. And 2020 was a scary time. We're saying, what should we do? And here we are. Is it okay for me to say that we're in September 2021?
Yeah.
And everybody has different fears, but we're all asking the same question: what should we do?
Mm-hmm.
And these times make it ripe for leadership. And in fact, I got to share a quote with you guys. You mind?
absolutely.
No, not at all.
So there's this quote I love. It comes from the United States Navy SEALs. And here's what it says: under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink to your level of training.
Oh, wow.
That's why we train so hard. And I think about that. If the United States Navy SEALs train day after day after day after day, they do the same thing repetitively, not because they're under threat, but because they're preparing for threats. Shouldn't we do the same thing?
Yeah, they're ready for pressure.
When uncertainty finds us, and it will, and whether it's the uncertainty of crisis or the uncertainty of opportunity, when it finds us, we have prepared with leadership skills that says, here's what we do when we don't know what to do. And so leadership is so crucial in our individual lives, in our organization, our communities, in our government, in the world. Leadership is crucial. And what flows out of that is confidence, and confidence leads to optimism. So leadership gives rise to confidence. Confidence gives rise to optimism. So if we bring that then back to charitable organizations, what do they need? They need people who have a pre-stamped pass with permission to lead.
Oh, that's great.
You're the CEO, you're the board chair, you're the board member. You are pre-approved with permission to lead. So lead.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what to do. So we decide something. We don't decide something impulsively. we're going to lean into our experience, our preparation, our education, our training, our disposition, those qualities that we're selected for when we're put in this position. And so that gives us confidence and humility. I should have mentioned that. I think that's one of the things that's been sadly missing over the last couple of years. We've got too much confidence, not enough humility. Well, that ends up with, what do we call it? People say they're cocky.
Right.
Okay. But if we have confidence with humility that says, we don't know what to do, so let's do this. And we're going to do this until this thing is proven to be not quite the right thing. And then humility allows me to do something just a little bit different. And so when we do that, it allows those around us to be optimistic. And we didn't know what to do, and we don't know everything, but we know enough for now, for here, for us. And let's do that until we figure out something better.
Oh, that's really good stuff.
We know enough to move on what we do know, and when we know better, we do better.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
great.
One of the things that I mentioned in our introduction was just the fact that you have been one of the people who a lot of times refers clients to us. I remember being on a call. One of my most memorable days in the event world is when you and I told a client they should not have an event anymore. And we said they just weren't quite ready for it. They need to do a little bit more to prepare for their event. And it was one of those memorable moments. And I was so glad you said it, and we both kind of said it at the same time of, you're just not quite ready for this. What do you feel like is the benefit to having events for a nonprofit group or for really any organization? But what's the benefits of events?
Yeah. And again, I love these questions. And next time, let's do one where you have easy questions. Okay?
Exactly. Making you think.
Exactly.
So I'm going to start with a negative. And what's the worst reason to do an event? And I think it's to have an event.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's an insufficient reason. Horrible. In fact, I can't tell you, Joe or Todd, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients or just colleagues come to me and say, Kent, you got to help me convince my board that we don't need to just do one more event. And of course, I tell them, I can't, but they can. So I give them the tools to figure out whether they need to do another event or not. But so, what do we get from an event? And I think event is the right solution for some problems, and for some problems, it's the absolute wrong solution.
Absolutely.
So
That's right.
Here's to me what I see as some of the best values of a big public event, and one is exposure. And so, by its very nature, a big event demands attention that previously could be ignored. And whether it's internal or external, if the event's big enough, we can't ignore it, right?
Yeah.
And so then there's another component that, and this is one of the things I love about what you guys do. One of the benefits from an event is clarity. And so the message, I love the way that you guys prepare your clients to have impactful events. Right. And part of what has to happen is we have to take a message that's inspiring, but it's too big to digest, and compact it down, put it into a nugget that somebody can actually, take hold of. And so that forces us to get clear about things that are, they're all good, they're just not all clear. And an event forces us to do that. And then the other thing that I think is just a huge benefit of an event is enthusiasm. And, you can have exposure without enthusiasm. Yeah. You can have exposure without clarity. You can have clarity without enthusiasm. Some people, the only thing they know to do with clarity is just get pessimistic, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But to be able to package this up and put it in an enthusiastic package and give people, here's one of the things that I love in our work is we get to help people feel good about doing good.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your background is, but I've been part of some organizations that, I mean, they had a master's degree in helping people feel bad about being bad. Some are even make you feel bad about doing good.
Yep, that's true.
You know, we get to make people, let people feel good about doing good. And so when you package up that exposure, that clarity and enthusiasm, the result then is people want to do what we talked about earlier, and that is be generous, right?
Yeah. I think that that really sums up a lot about what I love about being in events. I'm relatively new to the event industry, as I think you know. I was in architecture for a long time, but I feel like because of the reasons you're describing, to have an event, doing an event is kind of by definition, if you're doing it right, if you're doing something that's worthy of attention and exposure and worthy of excitement and worthy of understanding, then it's something that's worthy of doing. So I think that just feels like it's a noble thing to be doing events for those very reasons. So I love that.
One of the purposes of our podcast that we really wanted to be foremost is really encouraging new people who are new in the creative world, or new in small business, or new as a consultant, new in nonprofit, whatever it is, but really helping people do better at maybe presenting the things they're passionate about, including the areas that are not. So one of the questions we jotted down for you today was, what do you feel like is the key to success with client engagement? And can you tell us 3 things or whatever, how many things that we should know about engaging with clients? I think that's something else you do really well. You tend to make friendships and build relationships. They know how to trust you, and they look to you to be an authority. And that's something else I've admired. And I've struggled with. Part of it is because I do want to be a humble person. And so I tend to not always present myself in a confident way. And it's something I've really worked on the last set of years, is being more confident what I have to say. I love looking at you in the way, again, that you interact with clients. Help us with how to know how to work with clients better.
Well, I don't know if I can help you work with clients better. I think my thoughts in this area are probably very congruent with what you're already doing. But for those who are listening, as I thought about that question, the first thing that came to my mind is sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't give you the background of the word, but I'm told that the origin of the term sincere has to do with the ability to see through. And when we are sincere, people can see through whether it's, our inadequacies. And I mean, I already know I'm inadequate, so I don't have to cover that up. And after we have been together 5 minutes, you will know that I'm inadequate. So there's no value in this made up game of, trying to pretend a perfect world. And so sincerity, I think, allows me to encounter, to work with clients in a way that says, here's what my capabilities are. Here's the starting point. Here's the ending point. And so anyhow, I think it's important for us to know what we bring. I like to use the example that if you're looking for somebody to dance ballet, I am not the right person for that job. I mean, all 5'17" of me dressed up in a tutu would just make a big ugly show. And but there are things that I can do, and so I'm going to be sincere and transparent about both sides of that. And so, that's what I think. That's what integrity is all about. Sincerity is about, and frankly, I think it ties into this other thing, which is, I think it's all of our jobs, again, in whatever aspect of life, but that is to manage expectations. And so, when I come in, if I come in and give you an inflated perception of my capabilities, I've just set the bar so high that I have no chance of getting over it.
Right.
The only thing that's left is for me to try to sneak under it when you're not looking. Okay, there's no future in that, right? And so if we're sincere, and if we have an integrity, then I'm setting expectations. And if I'm going to miss it either way, I'm going to set the bar lower and then deliver above it rather than taking the opposite approach. And that's whether it relates to managing my own expectations of myself, managing interpersonal relationships. Joe, you can expect this from me, or client expectations.
Yeah.
You know, if I think something's going to take 4 or 5 months, I'm going to tell you, plan on 5 months. If it takes 1 day less than 5 months, I'm early. If it takes a month less, I'm way early. If it takes 5 months, I'm right on time. And I don't mean that to be silly and, you know, way exaggerated. But again, like I say, we're managing expectations. You know, how much is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? How high, how far, how fast? We get to manage those expectations. And when things change, you know, when 9/11 occurred, all of a sudden we knew that what we counted on in the past, we can't rely on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I want to say, I don't know what to expect, but let's do this for the next 2 weeks, and then let's just come back and revisit it.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Good stuff.
Yeah, another question on that I liked a lot was what do you wish everyone knew about fundraising? I think that's a great question. I was in development a really short time back 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and I loved every aspect of it, especially the event side. But I loved being in the fundraising world. But there's a lot of things that are intimidating about it and challenging, and I think it's a hard world, and a lot of people say it can be super easy. And I think that's true for some, but I found it to be a difficult place. What's the one thing you wish everyone knew about fundraising?
Yeah, well, so I say that fundraising is not mysterious, but it is methodical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and one of the things that I wish is that our world wasn't so heavily infused with fake fundraising or poor fundraising. And I'll give you an example. And I'm probably going to step on somebody's toes here, so get your feet up off the floor. I mean, probably not you guys, but one of the things I think in our schools, I think we do a terrible disservice starting with very young children, because we give them training and the impression that fundraising consists of what? It's wrapping paper, gummy bears,
candles,
pizza kits, and candy bars, right?
Yeah.
And anyhow, that's a kind of fundraising. But what happens is we equip generation after generation to believe that what fundraising consists of is it's transactional, and it primarily deals with overpriced something. And it involves a hostage. So, some cute little blonde-headed girl comes up to me with a pencil in one hand and a paper in the other one. Mr. Stroman, do you want some gummy bears? And I mean, I can't tell her, no, I do not want any gummy bears. When I give gummy bears to my grandkids, I get in trouble from my kids, So, but you can't not buy them. And so, of course, I ask the question, well, what are you raising money for? You know what she says? Mommy, what are we raising money for? She doesn't know. It's a duty. It's an obligation. And then I ask, what's your goal? And I find out, if they sell $100 worth of gummy bears, they get a teddy bear.
You're right.
And, mom hasn't even realized yet, she doesn't want her kid to have another teddy bear, but it's a prize, right? So anyhow, we transactionalize, and now we think this is fundraising. And yes, there's a lot of money that's traded hands in this obligatory fashion. But when that happens, it's not true philanthropy, where the giver has a heart that's full of joy because they did something, they made a difference in an area that they're passionate about. And usually, whatever the amount of the transaction is, it's not big enough that it makes that much difference. And so anyhow, I guess in a nutshell, what I'd say is what I wish everybody knew about fundraising was really how to succeed. And how to succeed has a lot to do with strategy that is proven. I mean, I didn't invent any of it, but I've learned enough of it from those who have practiced it successfully. And I'm able to equip other people, and largely it has to do either with what to not do, no gummy bears,
Right.
or yeah, there is a time for gummy bears. It's just not now. I mean, it's the last thing we do, not the first thing we do. So yeah, it's that whole idea about what we talked about earlier, and that's giving people the tools they need to succeed, and in such a way that actually last week I got to go to a reception in the finished product. It was a new building for a client that we started on this project years ago. Started, raised the money, then they finalized the plans, built the building. I got invited to a reception in this building. And I mean, it stirred my soul. And it was full of people that had happy faces because they made a difference that's going to make a difference for years and years to come. And so anyhow, there's usually we don't get from where we are to where we want to be by operating strictly on our enthusiasm. There have to be some rails for us to put that train on to get from point A to point Z. And that's what I wish for people, is that they had the tools to use their giftedness in ways that truly are impactful to generate the results that they've hoped for and dreamed for.
I love that. We getting almost out of time. I have taken notes.
I know. I love that you're taking notes.
Like this is crazy. Just rich stuff. I mean, this is one of those things where
your wisdom, just kind of soak it in.
Yeah, I'm ready to go to lunch and hear some more. We appreciate you. Like I said, what you do in our community of the event world, our fundraising nonprofit world. What you do is phenomenal, and we always appreciate your partnership and just the rich work you bring to our clients. We'd love to. Our last question is, how can we help you? How can we help you do that better? How can we help you do that and really encourage you in your roles as that?
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, first of all. And I think, when I think about where success comes from, it's relationships. And it's what you mentioned when you first started out, and that's introducing. I think we get to introduce people to each other.
Yeah.
There are, I guess there's the introduction of materials and products. You mentioned the books that I've written. Probably the most impactful resource that we have to offer is what's called the Asking Academy. And that's where we equip volunteers and professionals to be really successful with high impact fundraising. And then I guess introductions for organizations that need help in the boardroom. We do a lot of board retreats, or they're preparing for, anticipating, or engaging in a major fundraising campaign. That's really where most of my time is spent. And that's helping to bring success to those organizations that have a vision that goes beyond their current resources.
I love that. I actually have a group that I recommended you to a month or so ago, and we'll see if they get around to calling you. They're not quite ready to call yet, but they're looking forward to it. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way? Do you have a website? What's the best way to contact you?
Probably the simplest way is just either Google my name or Stroman and Associates. You'll find our website. Two websites. One is stromanconsulting.com, and the other is conversationalfundraising.com. And anyhow, that's probably the best avenue to connect. You can't hide on the internet, so
That's
I
right.
guess it's best to do things that you don't have to hide from.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's Stroman is Stroman for those of you who are listening and can't see that. So we'll have all this in our podcast notes on our website. Feel free to check that out.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a blog even that talks about some of the stuff, some of the things I've taken notes on. We'll probably have Kent look at that and maybe add some of his other words that he didn't get to say. So again, this has been great. Thank you, Kent. And for those of you listening, we just want to say again that it's such an honor that you would tune in and listen to some of the things we're trying to bring from seasoned professionals like Kent and other people in our industry as well as outside industries that we think we can all benefit from. And I think that's an important part is we just have a desire and a passion to help others, to inspire them to do better. And that's what we want for you, is just to do do better at where you're at in life. So thank you for tuning in this week. You can always contact us, Joe at rumbledrum.com, Todd at rumbledrum.com, and we'd love to help however we can. Connect you to Kent, other people like him. We're happy to do that anytime. And again, telling people about this podcast, being able to like us, follow us, review us. I keep being told that's something I need to say over and over.
Yeah.
Review us on wherever you listen to podcasts. That'd be great. So again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank
good
you all
week.
for joining us. Thanks, Kent. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys.